Guys, we're back for another episode, and we're going to talk about Arcimoto because they had their Q3 2021, right?
Wait, I'll be like, is it safe to look?
So don't open your eyes.
Oh man. Well, at least I'm prepared. Are you guys
Uh,
prepared to see what you're about to see?
yeah, and we're obviously friends with Lee from LG Investments, and I saw his video just to shout him out. We'll include a link too because he's a
Yeah.
cool guy. He's much more optimistic about these numbers than I when I was looking at them, and he makes me feel not so bad about all the shares I'm holding.
Right. So he makes you feel good about the losses, the red.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is going to be a tough situation for the next year, maybe. Definitely 6 months. I feel like 6 months we're going to have a little bit
Two
of an issue.
quarters. 2 quarters at least.
A lot of money is being spent on the facility, and obviously each vehicle they're still losing a lot of money on. So I don't think Wall Street and a lot of investors look at it like I do, meaning saying, "Oh, I'm holding these shares for the long term, and I'm gonna, even if they drop to $5 again." I think a lot of people are, as soon as it crosses that under 10. I think we're going to see a lot of blood if it actually hits under 10. And so why don't we do this? Why don't we go to like right off the bat?
Look
We're
at the
going to get
chart.
into this video. On this video, we're going to go through the whole Arcimoto analyst webinar. We're going to go through some links. But before we do that, let's just talk about the money part, get it out of the way, let people know at least what we're thinking, where we stand. So Arcimoto releases their quarterly numbers. Arcimoto EPS misses by 11. It says 11 cents, misses on revenue. The good news is the revenue is up 120% year over year, but remember, they're not actually selling a lot of vehicles. So I don't know how hard it is to sell from nothing to something.
That's what I'm
So
saying. How
that's
are they
good.
missing?
People shouldn't focus on these numbers and instead see them ramping their facility. I just feel a little bit more bearish in terms of most people's sentiments that when they see these kinds of misses, they're not going into the details of let me watch the factory that's being built and let me see
Right.
what Mark is up to. Like we're almost on, we're in a first name basis with the CEO, right? So
Right, right, right.
I think the average investor is like, who the hell is Mark?
And why is he not paying me?
And why is his stock not going up?
But it just goes to show the difference the way a retail investor that is investing with their money, the amount of research that they'll do versus the analysts will do. They're just looking at top line numbers. They want three metrics that are super easy, and it really does affect this company. But if you're looking, like you said, they're ramping up right now. It's impossible for a company to do both at the same time. And if they
Right.
accounted for that and supported these companies, I mean, we're right on track. Like nothing has fundamentally changed about Arcimoto.
Oh, let me go back a second. Guys, we have our video up with Neo Volta, Brent Wilson, so please check that out. Hit like and subscribe, and we have
He's
more
a good
videos coming
guy.
up.
It's all
Yeah.
in the same space.
$11 right now,
Interesting.
$411 million is the market cap. So this is still a small company where if there is a 10x, imagine to 4 billion or so, like that is possible if they're successful in 2, 3 years. That is possible. But obviously it's the bet I'm making, the big bet. And in the next year, I'll just have to cry for a little bit. Okay. So here's the chart that we've been looking at for the longest time. Okay. Nothing has changed for me. And in fact, when we covered it, I don't know if you recall, but
What day was that? That was
we were covering it here back in October when we were talking about it was going underneath this
right.
trend
That
line.
it
So
had to hit that. Yeah.
I thought it was breaking down, and it didn't. It actually pumped back up, and it hit the trend line. It dipped below, but then it pumped back up. But these pumps to me are artificial. So we are coming up to like sort of this little wedge where
Mhm.
we have this long-term trend down. So I just want to be clear about this. There is still a long-term trend down here, and it's been following this chart for how long have we been watching it for? 6 months,
mean,
8 months. It's a while.
It's
So
February 21.
there's not going to be any good news. So I don't see why this stock has to go to $20 unless there's some short squeeze that happens magically, which is possible, I guess. But I see no reason why we're breaking up. And in fact, I think we're breaking down.
You
I'm
did.
waiting. I'm waiting for $8. Honestly, or around there. It could be nine. I'm just saying around $8, $9 that I feel like I can DCA back in. There's no point for me to buy it right now. I have a lot of shares. If it goes up to 20, $30 because of a short squeeze, I'll still do fine. But I don't see any reason to like right now this month to start throwing in money into FUV. I don't see it.
Right.
Okay, so now we're at the daily, and
Right.
for the daily we are below. It's I mean it's bearish. The 200 days above
Is
all
above.
the averages.
Okay, that's what that. Yeah, that's
So
bearish.
we'll see what happens in the next week or two. It doesn't mean I'm rushing out of like all my shares, but I'm not looking to buy any more of FUV until we know exactly what's going on. And I am wrong about it dipping, I'm okay with that too, because I have enough shares. Let it just stay at this price and just hang out until next year.
Yeah.
And then off to the races. I just don't want Arcimoto. What's going to happen is, this is why I'm a little bearish. Sorry, guys. I feel like the shorts are going to push it down. Some retail investors are going to sell out. And Arcimoto is going to try to raise money at that point. We already talked about this. We'll include links everywhere to the video.
Right, but that would be disastrous.
So what happens when they're raising money at $8?
Ask very good foods.
I mean, like, if they're raising it if they ask right, it has very good foods. Exactly.
You know,
if they do it at the wrong time, I feel it's that $8 is no longer the floor. It might be pushed again.
It's just a 5, right?
We're gonna watch the Arcimoto Q3 2021 Analyst Webinar, and this won't be the whole thing. We're just gonna discuss and analyze some of what Mark says. So we'll pause. And we'll talk about it, and we'll see how it goes. Because you guys will include a link to the whole thing if you want to watch the whole thing by yourself. It's already on their channel.
Welcome to Arcimoto's Q3 Analyst and Stakeholder Webinar in conjunction with our recent filings last night to the SEC for Q3.
Welcome to Ride of the Arconauts, quarterly reporting edition, broadcasting from somewhere in the wilds of Arizona. To sum up Q3 to present in 2 words, massive progress. On every front, critical for the company's growth, we've advanced. The planning and build out of our mass production facility, our plans for the future of rideshare, including the first ever demonstration of a driverless Arcimoto, the further expansion of our product family with the launch of the Roadster and first demonstration of the flatbed, as well as the on-roading of our first true micromobility prototype based on technology we acquired at the beginning of the year, the expansion of our open market regions with the acceptance of orders from Nevada, with Arizona and Hawaii targeted next, and the launch of the Ride of the Arconauts, our ultra-efficient roadshow plan to substantially expand awareness of Arcimoto and the unique experience of our rides nationwide. And despite supply chain issues outlined in our stakeholder update at the beginning of Q4, we sold a record number of vehicles to customers from our current limited production facility. The push to volume production continues to be our most important overarching objective, and in the third quarter, we made significant progress towards that goal. We took possession of our new ramp facility and began landing new production equipment, including our new automated plastics production cell, as well as began the renovation of the facility that will become...
That's kind of cool. Well, let's talk about that. So this factory looks like it's coming up.
New automated...
Look at that. They have a plastic forming, and I think in the quarterly report that he had, they're saving around $700 or so doing it themselves this way, something like that. We'll go maybe another video where we go actually over the numbers, but
we asked him about that. We asked him how much fabrication is happening in the new factory and how much of that is assembly. And I think he was saying not much of it. It's like maybe he didn't give a percentage, but it's not much of actual fabrication.
Right, but they're starting like to do some of these things.
New production equipment, including our new automated plastics production cell, as well as began the renovation of the facility that
plastics production cell. But I mean, it looks like they're making part of the body over there, right?
Where you could see, you could actually see the tech inside of the front.
Well, you can see how like like you look at Elon's production line, obviously, and it's like robots and all these people as it moves fast across, and this seems like a very slow manual process, and that's why he really needs this facility. Like it's so clear.
Like the like that show American Chopper. This reminds me of like
this is like American Chopper. Right?
Yeah, like the guy's just in there,
Yeah, all they have to do is charge 100,000 per FUV, and we're done.
Right, and then scream at each other all day. That's
right.
And the assembly line into the new facility, after which we expect to achieve substantially higher unit output for the remainder of next year. We've also
that's a bit of news that I don't want to skip over. He says we are going to have substantially higher output for next year.
Also made substantial headway on all of the design, engineering, and planning efforts to move each system of the vehicle to a mass producible state. This work, in tandem with what we continue to learn about the developing next-generation transportation market, provides the foundation of our application to the U.S. Department of Energy for an ATVM loan, the final draft application for which we intend to submit before the end of the year.
Stop it right there. Can you stop
now,
that?
note
that is good information, right?
ATVM can provide direct loans to support 3 broad project categories: advanced technology vehicle manufacturing, building new facilities in USA, check, re-equipping, modernizing, or expanding existing facilities, that they've got, qualified component manufacturing, building new facilities in the USA, re-equipping, modernizing, or expanding, that's the same thing. And then engineering integration performed in the USA for ATVs or qualifying components. I don't see what in that they don't qualify for. Like, what would be the condition?
Well, yeah, we have to go over it. I don't know everything about it, but
Lee will know.
Yes, I think Lee from LG Investments, if you want to check out his channel, we'll include a link.
He's typing a comment right now as he's watching this. He is like, guys,
I already know, and he did cover it in another video.
He did.
But he's going to go deeper into this, and so we don't have to go deeper into that part of it. But it's nice to know that they're actually going to have an application in at the end of this year. He said, finally, we have a date for the application.
We intend to submit before the end of the year. Now, note about that ATVM loan, we also did a lot of work over the course of the last year working to make changes in the authorization of the ATVM program with our partners in Congress. And we're very pleased to report that the infrastructure bill that President Biden signed today contains a really important modification that we believe, in tandem with the market research that we have done, will really bolster our application for that program. Arcimoto's pace of innovation continues to accelerate as we focus.
So, okay, I don't want to skip over something so critical what he just said. Right. He answered our question, basically, why it took so long for this ATVM loan application, because he was working to get some provisions in it, which we saw. I think we saw the three-wheel vehicle provisions in there. So, Mark I'm sorry, you were not sitting on your butt. You were doing your job.
He was doing it from the Roadster.
He was doing it from the Roadster, right?
Just chilling on the Roadster.
No, but that is good news. That's actually very bullish. We now see that 3-wheeled vehicles should be part of this bill.
They're on that. Yeah, they're part of it.
And that's pretty big for a company that makes 3-wheeled vehicles, obviously.
Well, okay, but is that part of the $1 trillion part, or the?
No, that's the next one. That's the one.
1.5. Right.
Yeah,
that's the next
whatever
one
the next one is that hasn't done the EV tax credit part. That's where that is.
Not just on the vehicle itself, but really key technology upgrades throughout the vehicle architecture, including the battery system, the drivetrain, and the low voltage electronics and communications. Our innovation pathway is not strictly limited to improving cost and performance. We see right-sized, better utilized EVs as a critical pillar in our mission to accelerate the shift to sustainable transportation. As we look ahead to much higher levels of stepped-up production starting at the end of next year, we launched the Ride of the Arconauts, a program that we're essentially beta testing today, which is, we think, a radically more efficient way of doing vehicle roadshows. The typical way, and we've done this for more than a decade, you truck vehicles thousands of miles, people fly in, stay at hotels, and then everybody boogies back home.
I'm a little offended. I'm not in this video. I'm a little offended. Me and my quote, whoa, this thing is fast. Like,
did they cut you out?
I mean, I gave you the soundbite, Mark. You know,
over the course of next year, and make sure that everyone out there who has had a curiosity about the Arcimoto ride experience gets a chance to get in the driver's seat.
Oh no, it just seems to me like these 2D barcodes could be a way that they initiate rideshare, right? Like, it pulls up, you confirm that it's you, it unlocks itself and lets you ride it. When you're done, you scan it. That's what they do with the birds. The bird, I have them all over Santa Monica. You walk up to the bird with the bird app, it opens your camera, you look at it, it says bing, it charges your credit card, and then it activates.
And let's go ahead and bring on the executives and our esteemed panelists.
Hey, Mark. Good morning. It's Amit from HC Wainwright.
Amit, good morning.
Hey, so this new platform that you just highlighted, the electric bicycle micromobility, can you talk a little bit about, when, timing, and just some color on, what the product is actually all about?
Yeah, so well, and you could kind of see it in our first prototype in blurred out form. The reason for the product is that, ultimately, we see Arcimoto's position in the market as being everything less than the car. We want to run from daily go-getter platform that is the FUV, all the way down into that whole next order of magnitude of efficiency. In terms of timing, we're not quite ready to take the wraps off it yet. We think it'll be showing up early next year in terms of talking in detail about the product features and so on. But in broad strokes, it starts obviously with the technology that we acquired from Tilting Motorworks, which is, we think, the right way to do a leaning three-wheeled vehicle.
So just to stop it there, because he's talking about the platform too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's saying sometime next year, but I mean, besides having a real prototype that's sort of ready to show, do me and you honestly believe there's actually a vehicle that's going to be available?
I can see it happening.
You're saying like to buy, he's going to have it ready to go.
Here's why.
Huh?
It weighs
Okay.
150 pounds. There's not much in it. Okay. It's not much. And I've
Right.
really,
It's a stripped down FUV.
Listen, we're looking at that thing again. Okay. This is again, Mark, maybe I'm Carlos Stradamus here. Okay. But that is basically the back end of an FUV, the wheel at the back end with the motor there. Remember the guy when I was driving with him and I said, are they ever going to make a 3-wheeled version of these? And he said a specific type of motor that he would put on that. Remember I forgot the name of the motor.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. You take the back end of an FUV, it's already there. You already have these parts laying around. You repurpose a frame around it that is basically, like you said, a platform that sticks out, a bicycle system. It's a really super simple bicycle system. So that they can do off the store.
I see what you're saying. It's basically the complication of this is way simpler. Well, maybe really, they can have some limited run of it. Yeah, possible. Yeah,
and you can make it really, because if you said, okay, if
Would
you
buy
said,
one?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'd have to see how
it was like $2,000.
Works. Yeah, but for $2,000, I mean, why not have one of those things? It would be kind of cool, kind of fun. So I could see them being like, we're basically trying to make the perfect bike, better than a bike, right? It leans, it's got 3 wheels, so it's more stable, probably have way more power. Like put it like this: if I said to you, can Arcimoto get an e-bike, 2-wheel bike in a year? You'd say, of course. They're making 1,500-pound vehicles that are motorcycles. They could scale.
Right. You're basically saying, right, if it's like an e-bike in that complexity where it's all stripped down. I guess you've changed my mind. It is possible that they'll have.
I've got faith in you, Mark. Don't make me a liar.
If you look at the products that Arcimoto builds, we are building new platforms. We're not taking the electric bike market today is largely bicycles that have been made electric. The electric vehicle market is in many cases cars that have been made electric. We are focused on platforms that are sort of electric from day one, and so that's letting us think a little bit outside of the box. I can be more. I can add more vague things here, but I would just suggest that you stay tuned. We're looking to unveil the platform to sort of product concept really right after the beginning of the year. What we've noticed is that in just the last couple of years, the market idea of what a vehicle should be has really shifted, and it's shifted in the direction of sustainability, shifted in the direction of micromobility, and we think that's a real benefit to the world and also to our plans going forward.
This new platform, is it meant for highway driving?
The platform itself is going to be capable of driving a variety of different very lightweight vehicles. The first product that we're building is in the class 3 e-bike space. So you could conceivably drive it on the highway, but you'd want to be on a very tall hill because their electric assist is capped at 28.
Okay, and this coming back to the financials and the quarterly performance, etc. Any updates on how Q4 is going for you guys? Revenues probably still weighed more heavily by rentals, I assume. Just any update on how that side of the business is looking?
I think on the revenue side, if you look at Q4, Q1, we're still in the midst of supply chain churn, and then as we talked in the video, we're going to be spending a big chunk of Q1 actually moving our production, our main assembly line features into the ramp.
I did hear a little bit. So he's actually stopping production. I don't know I think it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, in Q1 of the current facility to move a bunch of stuff over. So now whatever vehicles we thought we were going to have in Q1, just subtract 5.
Right. But that also means, that also means that once they're in there, they're going to start cranking out vehicles, man.
They can crank out more vehicles, right?
Yeah,
they
can start making vehicles.
I go to the negative first. You go to the positive now?
Well, I go negative. I go negative sometimes too. But when he says that, that means what that tells me is if they are ready for that, if they're ready to do that when he says they're ready, that means that facility is ready to go.
Well, I don't think it's going to be fully ready to go in Q1, but he might be able to start doing something there. Like you're saying, if they take the 2-3 weeks, set up the equipment, they might have a better system to, instead of making, what are they making? Like 80 a quarter, something like that.
That's what I saw in the financials.
Well, yeah. So let's say around 80 a quarter, maybe it goes to 160 a quarter. Even that would be amazing, honestly. And I know Lee had said that we don't care about that we don't want them to keep bleeding money.
Well, because he says they're losing money on every vehicle.
But the problem with that is that if the market doesn't see them growing, the stock will get hammered. He will raise money at the wrong time at the $8, $7, $6. That dilutes us further, doesn't get them as much money as they need, as opposed to saying, hey, look, we're really growing, we're ramping, even though it's like a little bit of a farce, right? But that farce would be like, oh, they doubled vehicle production. Oh, their stock should be worth $15 now. So I think that might actually be better for them.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
There's psychology in the market, right?
Yes, it's the psychology of the investor, because they're not diving deep into what the company's actually doing. They just want to know the traditional metrics. How many vehicles did you make? What's your profit margin? That kind of thing. And so he's got to play. He's got to play with that.
Revenue perspective, I would expect the same thing that we've been sort of guiding for the last five or so calls, which is relatively flat and lots of chop. As we start to get into end of Q1 into Q2 and beyond, we think that we're going to see a substantial increase in number of vehicles manufactured. We are aiming for a lot of those to end up in rental or rental type opportunities.
Well, let me stop it there too, right?
Wait a minute, but what about the 4,000 pre-orders, man?
Yeah, apparently
what about
it's
the
not
customers
going,
that are waiting? What about Vitaly's Roadster?
I didn't order the Roadster. I actually ordered. We did cover this, but maybe some people know. I ordered an FUV. I have it. I'm in the queue.
Link to the video here. Link to the video up there. You'll see Vitaly ordering it. Vitaly somewhere around there. No, it's at the top. It's a card in the corner.
I know, but I also put a link down there, so it's up there.
Right, link down
and
below.
Down there.
Point is, you ordered one. There's supposedly 5,000 pre-orders.
Right. So I don't think I'm getting my FUV for a while. Look, it's not the worst thing that I don't get.
Vitaly's son's going to get it for his 16th birthday.
By then, I'm bankrupt. but basically, look, I it's not that I don't agree with Mark's plan. I obviously invested in the company, and I want him to succeed, but if he doesn't show like people getting vehicles, this is what I keep getting back to. Like if people aren't getting vehicles and he's not getting money in the bank,
right?
I don't think a lot of investors really are going to just track the narrative so close. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's all about the raising of the funds.
But yeah, so stay tuned on that front. I think we're not giving yet guidance in terms of unit production for 2022, but I'm expecting it's going to be a big step up. Multiples beyond what we did in 2021.
Oh, multiples.
That's
okay,
the quote.
There you go. We got it.
Quote.
So it's not 800. It's at least a 3x is a 1,200 plus. Right?
It's multiple. So that's right. It would be at least 3x. A 1,200,
okay,
1,500.
So this is actually great information. Now I can actually do some figures. Okay, let's say they do get minimum 1,200 out of these out there, and let's assume these are being paid for. Forget about just rentals. Times the 20,000 average. That's $24 million. And that's a big increase. This quarter,
big increase, but Lee is screaming right now, saying, "But they're losing money on every vehicle."
It doesn't. Once again, the psychology of the market. As soon as they see this company go from like 3 million a year to 24, 30 million, I think the psychology of the market changes, and they say, "Oh my God, we're totally underpricing this company." I think honestly. So. I know they might at that point, if the stock starts rushing up and the guy's like, okay, now we dilute the hell out of them,
Right, when we dilute it. And look, this speaks to my whole thing with them is, my big question with them is the demand there? That's my big thing. Is the demand there? They could have the whole factory ramped up. Is there enough demand?
Well, for 1,200, there is. For 1,200 or 1,500, there is.
But that's technically filling pre-orders. If he's making them only for rentals, that you're making those without demand. You're making those to just to generate demand. So that to me is the cloudiest thing about investing in the company. Is like I like the product, right? But I'm like, do I see thousands of these on the road? I don't know. This is serious,
No, I agree. And that's the thing about investing that I just want to make it clear. I'm betting on a speculative future that hasn't happened yet. That's why we're taking this big risk at this tiny market cap company, because that's how you make a 10x, 20x, 30x, 50x. Yeah. Who knows what could happen? Yeah. So I'm willing to lose some of this cash in order to possibly just maximize that return. Because otherwise, what's the point? Just buy PayPal, buy Facebook, get your double in 5 years.
Right, get you 2x in 5 years.
Yeah, 3 to 5 years, you'll have an easy double. You don't have to worry about this kind of thing about Facebook and PayPal and Google not making their quarterly numbers. That you're not really worried about that. Okay, that's not
Right.
doesn't come across your mind. All right.
Right.
So FUV, you have to worry about that. Will they have enough vehicles? Will there be demand? Will this happen? Will that happen? And that's why I'm personally taking that bet. And I'm going to see. I'm rolling the dice here a bit, right? Because we need Mark not only to execute, but it's also that other people will want what he has. It's not only him executing, right?
Mm-hmm. That's my big point. It's like you can have it, you can have everything perfect, but if people aren't lining up and pre-ordering this thing like crazy, where you just can't make them fast enough, then you have a problem, because then you have a customer acquisition problem, an industry education problem. Now you have to go get the clients, and without those vehicles on the road, like I'm sure every say 10 Arcimotos that they sell gets them one new customer for free. I'm sure there's a metric that they can, right? So every 10 that they get out the door, somebody calls them and they go, hey man, my buddy bought one. I live in Oregon. My buddy's got one. I got to go out with him hunting on the weekend. I got to get one of my own. Then you start creating that exponential effect, but you got to get them out on the road, you know?
Craig and Jim McIllery, really appreciate you guys showing up.
I got the opportunity to ride the, I'm going to use the wrong name, the Roadster, your Roadster, the first unit when I saw you in Las Vegas. The FUV, right? The experience of, freedom and kind of flying like you do on a motorcycle. It's a little bit more free, but it still has that stability. Someone that's maybe a little bit older with a lot of money in their pocket might be a little afraid of a Harley, but something like that is a natural fit. And the design is just beautiful.
That Roadster in person is that red one that he had.
Yeah,
it is good. Beautiful. It is so, when they do the powder coating, when they do that, like that nice paint job, nice. It is a really impressive. It's way more impressive than what the FUV looks like.
So I want to point this out too. Really I'm glad you stopped us. I agree. It is a beautiful thing, but he's an analyst. How many calls, and I've listened to a lot of calls where an analyst stops you and tells you how beautiful your product is.
It's rare.
That doesn't happen that often. It is rare. Okay.
It's rare.
Even the Tesla analysts are all business.
How do you expect market visibility to grow for that? Right. I mean, I know you've got the original article out there, but how do you plan on marketing this one specifically? Does it go maybe to a different demographic than the original FUV? Do you expect it to resonate differently? When do you expect to have more units maybe for people to ride and drive so they can make their purchase decisions?
Is that yes, I think the aging motorcyclist market is much more an opportunity for the Roadster, although we actually have a lot of people in that demo that are attracted to the fun utility vehicle. But that the ride experience of it is, I mean, it really is, I don't know, I feel like it's somewhere between a magic carpet and a broomstick. It's just like it's like nothing else I've experienced on the road. Probably, I would say the key touch points on that one is that in California, you don't actually even need a motorcycle endorsement to ride the Roadster. In a lot of states, you can drive the fun utility vehicle with a normal driver's license, but because it has no upper frame, the Roadster will require a motorcycle endorsement. In California, that's not the case. So in places like that, we think our destination rental is going to be a fantastic way for people to get experience of it. The other piece is, and this just goes to, well, how we saw you in Vegas. We were driving down the street. You're like, wait, that's Mark. That thing looks cool. The whole purpose of the Ride of the Arconauts is to really bring vehicles in the most efficient way that we can to all of our potential customers, people who've signed up, and then ultimately, once we get the market seated, we think that we're going to see a lot of that pure effect where, my neighbor let me take the Roadster out for a weekend and now I've got to get one of my own. And then the other piece is that as we look into rentals, we're looking at the opportunities for rentals from renting by the minute, by the hour, by the day, by the week, by the month, and then even potentially longer. So I think that the Roadster is going to be one of those items that has the potential for, hey, I want to rent this for 3 months while I'm a snowbird. I'm heading south for the winter. I want this, as a sort of a golf cart 3.0 for my gated community, and that's another piece of that puzzle.
My second question is about the ATVM loan application, right? The loan has some stipulations, or at least the loan requirements have some stipulations about, having an enclosed cockpit, which then I guess means you probably need things like maybe, well, I don't know if you need air conditioning because the airflow is beautiful, but you could, depending on the definition of enclosed, right? I know your heating is fantastic. Some of the things like windshield wipers and some of these other items that kind of come into play for compliance around the ATVM loan. Can you maybe sort of scope out, how this is a match for things you're already planning, you're already developing, and, the different phases of the loan, where are you as far as the original application and maybe moving into potentially due diligence for that loan?
One of the key pieces that actually happened yesterday with the infrastructure bill was a change to the ATVM relating to overall qualification for the program and the metric of financial viability. What has been added is that the new target is a reasonable prospect of repayment. So that's just kind of at the outset, probably the biggest hurdle.
So I'm going to stop it because a lot of stuff was said there, but the last thing he said is that a new item was added that you have to repay this loan, or the prospect of repaying has to be there. That means that they have to show that they're selling vehicles and that they could somehow in the future pay this back, which they are. Honestly, they're actually doing it. So I wonder how many other people are being screwed over that cannot get this loan, that are in just like the concept phase and want to build it out. This might be good for Arcimoto, from what he said.
Yes. If that's a stipulation that there has to be a reasonable way to repay it. The thing is, though, what he would use the loan for would activate the things that would help him repay it.
Well, the loan definitely has some provisions. Like you could only use it for, I think Lee talked about this too, that you can't use it for everything. Like it can't be you bought a factory and you need to clean the floors, or you need to paint the walls. It can't be that.
I think it was like you can buy like the robots. You can help with.
I think it's part of the machinery, right? It's part of the machinery.
Yeah, like I think that's what he's got to use it for. He's got to use it to ramp up the production of something that already exists to help. It's basically a catalyst. It's like you just need money to finish this thing. You don't have the money to make it, but if you did, you'd be able to get these things out. Right. He can prove demand, right? He can prove he has pre-orders.
What has been added is the new target is a reasonable prospect of repayment. So that's just kind of at the outset, probably the biggest hurdle of the ATVM for any new vehicle manufacturer that doesn't have existing profitability, is that financial hurdle of, can we project out based on your present sales that you're going to be able to pay this back, versus what is now the case, which specifically allows for things like detailed market research to help bolster those cases. So that we were doing that piece of it anyway as part of our application. That's been a big effort over the last quarter, is just getting what we think is the underlying justification. And then to your point, there are requirements about what types of vehicles are actually supported, fully enclosed vehicles that are ultra efficient, carry two people, so on and so forth. And I tease it a little bit.
So this is important too. So you do have to be fully enclosed to get this loan. So that is probably one of the reasons he's putting doors and windows on this thing, not because he wants to, but to get the loan is the only way to do that. I didn't know that.
But the analyst brings up a good point that once you enclose that vehicle, you then have to control the climate. Once you control the climate, you then have to have windshield wipers. Once you do that, you can't claim the same range, because all of these systems. I mean, air conditioning is big. I mean, that was one of the reasons why Sandy Monroe was so impressed with the heat pump in the Model Y, because it moved heat around in a way that made it more efficient and made the vehicle more efficient.
In the overview company video, that we have what we are considering sort of a mass market commuter vehicle on the drawing board. We've teased it in very, very broad strokes at the beginning of this year when we talked about our target for 2024. So that is really what we are applying for the bulk of those funds for. We're making the investments in the core platform ourselves, but that major piece, and that's the piece that is, just some of the big ticket tooling and machine option, all of the sort of the big expense of going into scale production. A lot of that is in that mass market, fully embodied commuter type vehicle, and that's really what we're looking to the feds for help to get built.
I'm wondering about the price of the vehicle in 2022 as your manufacturing increases. Are you going to pass along to customers I'm assuming that there's going to be a cost decrease as you...
Our first goal on cost decrease is for us is to just get to per unit profitability. And we see a couple of ways that happens. One is just by getting it so that we have positive gross margin. And then the second is that as we look at a variety of rental operations, we think that we can drive, in some cases, substantially higher revenue per unit created with a shared use model than we can with an individual sale. As we get into, as the sort of more mass production portions of the platform come in, so we'll see cost reductions. Like, so for example, you saw the vacuum forming cell. There's a short clip of that. That has now landed in our production facility. We've powered it up. We're starting to run test parts. We'll have production parts on that, we think, in Q1. And that's going to be one of multiple cost reduction programs. The sort of the bigger steps happen starting towards the end of next year. And those are the much higher scale targeted changes that are coming into the platform. And that's when it would be sort of in 2023 and beyond that we'd start to see some big price reductions on the consumer side.
As we've always said, 2023, 2024 is when we're getting that 15,000 and maybe under Arcimoto or FUV.
But that, I mean, for me, that tells me it's just going to be flat all of 2022. If you believe in this company, 2022 is your year to just accumulate shares. That's really what he's telling me there. Just accumulate. Don't think about it. Build your position. Thousands of shares.
Right. Yeah. So anybody who thinks you have to rush into this right now.
Right.
The whole point in this video, even when we started it, I don't think you do. I think look, even if it goes to $15 and it stays there, you want to see them get over this hump and to see how this dilution thing works out too, because that might be a big hit to the stock in the interim. So that's when you just want to DCA, keep DCAing and buying it, because if you buy your whole position now and then he dilutes us January, February, well, then you know it's going down. Like that's, so I don't see any reason to like get a whole position right away. I don't see any reason to do that.
Build it. Yeah. Build it over time.
You indicated that the increased production in 2022 is going to the rental markets. So I'm assuming that requires a substantial increase in your rental outlets. And is that true? And if so, where would that be?
We generally try not to reinvent the wheel, although on our Platform 2 project, we certainly are. When it comes to rentals, we certainly envision Arcimoto having a number of flagship rental stores that carry our own brand. But there are a ton of companies out there doing destination rental. I mean, as an example, we're going to be demoing Arcimotos today on the ride of the Arconauts at an e-bike rental shop in Phoenix. And so the plan there is really to say, how can we, with the most efficient and then sort of the most efficient capital pathway, get the Arcimoto vehicles out into the market, establish the right win-win relationships with current and market players, and really drive both unit deployment and then lots and lots of brand awareness.
Is it possible that you would take equity positions in some of these rental outlets, or is that not in the plans now?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's certainly on the table. The simplest equation is us renting a vehicle or leasing a vehicle that is then re-rented. But I think that there are certainly some groups that we have talked to where we have longer term strategic alignment. And right now it's just really all about identifying and teaming up with the sort of the low hanging fruit opportunities in the market.
All right. Very good. Thanks a lot. That's it for me.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim, what a good question, Jim.
Hey, good morning. For me as a financial analyst, Nirvana is 2023. You get to 50,000 units production capability. You're producing them profitably. And I'm trying to think about and understand the challenges you still have between now and then getting there. One of them, and you've talked about all of them, I've talked about the progress. One of them obviously is I think you've called it a 2.0 FUV. You brought in Monroe, nobody better in the industry. The next challenge is going to be selling 50,000 units. To date, I think in your queue, it talks about 5,000 units sold to date. You're doing this Ride of the Arconauts program. I'd be curious, how many people are you seeing in this program to date? How many would you expect? And then presumably even that doesn't get you to selling 50,000 units a year. So what are your longer term plans for sales? Would you do something big like a Superbowl ad? How do you sell 50,000 units a year once you've done all this hard work to design a production ready vehicle and build a plant?
There are going to be multiple components to that. One is, we're targeting basically a price tag that is truly affordable for the mass market. So we're assuming an average selling price around 15K, which would put a base model somewhere. We're the long term intent is to get the base model as close to 10 as we can. That would be really something that is as we've seen the market. There is a niche market for this product family in the 20 plus range. As you get close to 15, that is a much wider market. And then as you get to 10, it's a credit card purchase for a lot of people, and it's almost everybody. So in terms of building that awareness, just as one example, we were in Austin over the weekend with the Ride of the Arconauts. Over the span of that event, we did more than 200 test drives of the fun utility vehicles with 2 vehicles. This was at the Electrify America show. It was definitely the Arcimoto was, I would say, the hotness there in terms of the intensity of interest in folks. And there is what we would expect to see is sort of that catalytic effect that we all saw with Tesla Motors, which is that, as soon as there was one Tesla in the neighborhood, then the neighbor, they gave their friends rides, they let their neighbors drive it, and pretty soon 2 or 3 or 4 were sold just by word of mouth. I have never experienced a product in my life that has the same sort of just customer enthusiasm, and certainly anything I've ever worked on, that the Arcimoto does. And I think that's going to be a really key piece of the virality focus. And then finally, again, one of the reasons why we're focused on rentals is, one, we think we're going to be able to drive more revenue per vehicle. 2, we think utilization of vehicles is really important. So it's not just about lightweighting the platform. It's about making sure that it's in use much more frequently than a car is. But finally, it's all about getting lots and lots and lots and lots of butts and seats to help build the market for when we're at scale production. And ultimately, we see 50,000 units per year as one stepping stone on a path to sort of much, much higher volumes than that, if we are to be truly successful in making a meaningful difference in terms of climate emissions.
So, I mean, this is something we should talk about, because he didn't give an actual plan besides grassroots type of getting butts and seats. And I mean, yes, we do need to do that, obviously. And I'll be a salesman when I get mine, but that's not, I need a bigger plan than just me trying to sell it for him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. And it's not even, take the investor aside. My question for you is, how would you do it?
Well, no, I don't know the answer to this. I am not Elon Musk or Mark Frommeier. I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to sell 50,000.
We know what Elon Musk.
I have no idea.
We know what Elon Musk did. We know what Elon Musk just made the vehicle, lost money for 10 years.
Well, he also made it super cool, right? He made it so like it's a desired object. I don't know if an FUV is a desired object. Maybe the Roadster is, but I don't know if the FUV itself. Like, I think he does actually need people to sit in it and drive it and say, "Oh, I really like this."
Okay, but this goes back to, again, probably the biggest thing holding me back from going all in on the company,
right,
is this piece. Elon Musk did the Roadster first, and the reason he did the Roadster is he said, I needed to smack down the ICE vehicles and show that EVs are not just ugly vehicles that are meant to be efficient and meant to be your go-getter. That's not sexy. That doesn't get you. That doesn't get. Right. That doesn't get people.
Well,
excited.
I think that's why he does have his Roadster, his version of it, right?
I get it, but he's not. But that's not the flagship vehicle. You know what I'm saying? No. Like, he came out with the Roadster when they had the Roadster, and they proved, oh my God, electric vehicles can be cool and sexy. Then he goes, here's a sedan, and then he went from there. Right? He's trying to sell the $25,000 Tesla right now, and Elon said you can't do that. The plan is to sell this one, then you get the money and you sell this one, you get this one. So I was going to say, and that's what I thought the purpose of the Ride of the Arconauts was. I was saying to myself, this is him trying to get ahead of this question about demand. he's got to start drumming up demand.
So no Super Bowl ad, it sounds like.
Jesse, are you wanting to cut the check on a Super Bowl ad, Fritz? I'd say what my philosophy is keep the money on the road. So we want to, and this even goes back to why we're doing Ride of the Arconauts in the first place. Is just the traditional means of vehicle marketing, I think are crazy and wasteful. And so we're going to try and do it in a more efficient way. But, I wouldn't rule anything out at this point.
On the ATVM, I'm not as familiar with that program. Are there timelines you've talked about by year end getting what you call the draft application? So presumably that's not final.
We want our final draft. We're ready to put this one to bed. We've done a ton of work over the last quarter and a half to really refine both our understanding of the marketplace that we're going into, and then the planning for all of the pieces that we're asking for help for. And that's the planning for our automated battery production and all of the various constituent components of the vehicle, the new mass producible chassis design, electronics, and so on. And so we think that by the end of this year, we will be have it all tied up with a bow, and we're hopeful that can move through their process quickly.
Can you define quickly what milestones should investors look for on the ATVM when you get initial feedback? When is the final approval? Do they have any mandated timelines on their review of the process?
There are two kind of key prior to funding. There are two kind of key milestones. One is the designation of substantial completeness, which is at the point that it is designated substantially complete. Then we can begin accruing costs against a future loans in the event that is a successful application. And then the second kind of key milestone is a conditional commitment to fund, and then finally is sort of closing it and signing all the docs. I don't believe there is a fixed timeline. What we have heard from the department is that they all the way to the top of the loan program is that they want to be moving very expeditiously on their side. So I would expect somewhere in the once it's all tied up with a bow, my best guess would be somewhere in the 6 to 9 month range. But again, I don't want to speak for the DOE. They have their review and their process.
Well, now we have roughly a timeline that minimum 6 months all the way up to the year. So we won't know anything for 2 quarters.
For me, as someone that would be looking to accumulate shares, that would tell me if he announces, if he announces that he gets that money, this thing goes to $17.
As soon as this loan, who knows? Short squeeze, 50. Honestly, short squeeze, boom.
Right.
So if that happens,
they would be betting that it's going to be terrible news. They're going to be betting.
Right. The shorts are betting they're not getting it, and if they do get it, I mean, literally, this can go straight to $50. That's what we all keep talking about. I don't want to keep diverting, but here is the actual short interest right now. So let's take a look. By 10/29/2021, this is what's currently at least known.
Days to cover. There we go.
Well, here's short interest is 9.7 million shares, and it's 11.8 days to cover. It's 12 days that if there is a short squeeze, this can go astronomical. Honestly, it'll take them 12 days to cover.
Right.
And the average daily volume they're saying is 829,000 shares. So you're talking, and there's 10 million shorted. So. No, what I mean,
it's just this. It's like the line in Braveheart. It's like just that, like those. No,
but look at this.
War movies.
If every day only 829,000, roughly, even if it's by half, let's say on the big days it's 2 million, right? Right. You're still talking 5 or 6 days for these guys to cover. The stock can go easily to $50. We've seen it happen before. It went to 36 pretty much in a week.
In the chat, Scott asked for clarification on the 500 sold that was talked about.
That 5,000 number, I think you're thinking of our pre-orders and indications of interest. Those are not actually sold vehicles. We have now I think as of the end of Q3, we had manufactured in total, 424 vehicles. Is that right, Doug?
Correct. 424 vehicles manufactured and 298 sold.
Almost 300. All right. So
Of course, that difference is either in inventory or in rental
Almost 3.
or marketing vehicles. So
Yep.
definitely being utilized.
So that is those indications of interest we expect. those have basically increased quarter over quarter for since we started taking reservations, I think. But we're the part of the goal here is really, again, just to build the marketplace further in anticipation of much higher volume of production. All right, Mike.
My first question is about the infrastructure bill that was signed yesterday, or even just general state subsidies for EVs. Do you know of any subsidies, federal or state, that now include 3-wheeled, whether along with a 2-wheeled or with a 4-wheeled subsidy, that we should be aware of that's changed over, let's say, over the last 9 months or so?
Yeah, so I did talk a bit about the infrastructure bill, and so you can't hit the transcript for that. In terms of tax credits, Oregon has $2,500 up to, I think, a $5,000 credit. Is that still in there, Fiddy? And then state of California has a $2,250 credit that applies to the Arcimoto. We have been pleased that for the first time in I think more than 10 years, the latest draft of reconciliation bill now at the federal level includes a $7,500 tax credit for 2- and 3-wheeled vehicles that are electric. And so when you start to add that into the equation, things look pretty amazing. Of course, anything can happen in DC that bill has not passed. There's much sausage making between now and the promised land. So, but we take it as a very positive sign, of course, that it ended up in a bill. And we're hopeful that our partners in Congress will be able to push that through and make it happen.
I wanted to ask secondly about your pursuit of autonomy, and there were some parts of the video that had that. But can we tie it in with potentially what's happening with the Deliverator? We're starting to see autonomous delivery vehicles come out, and I'm wondering if the platform that you have right now can fit a different shape than a single driver vehicle. Instead, could it have just a giant box on wheels, and what would be the capacity of that vehicle?
And actually, the company that is sort of has been driving driverless on the Arcimoto platform, a company called Faction, their whole, I think what they've articulated publicly is that they're wanting to go after that, last 10-mile delivery with a driverless solution. And we use driverless because driverless encompasses a range of technologies from remote operation to limited autonomy to some other stuff that's even, I think, lower hanging fruit than that. But yeah, we definitely see an opportunity for the platform in that space. And so that's we are focused initially on the Robo Valet and even some precursors that get there, which is, hit a button on your phone, whichever one of the Arcimotos you need pulls up, you jump in the driver's seat. And that distinction is really critical just because it is a substantially lower hurdle, right? If you have a Robo Valet that only needs to go on some of the roads, or it can go on designated pathways or designated loops, only at low speed, and is only driving driverlessly when there's no human in it, that is an easier technical problem to solve than the full robo-taxi that goes on all roads at all speeds with human cargo. And yet that element, just the Robo Valet piece, is what is the cost reduction of the roboticized taxi fleet. It takes that logistics problem of getting your ride to you out of the equation, and then when an Arcimoto shows up, most people prefer to jump in the driver's seat.
I did want to stop it because we did cover the part where he said he's building his robo taxi fleet at some point, 2024. We had it in our video.
Yeah.
But this is the other part that he said in the beginning. I don't know if you missed it or caught it. He's going to provide a platform for other autonomous companies to build their thing on. Did you hear that beginning part?
Yeah. And he alluded to that. We were thinking like ship them overseas to India and let them trick it out, but he's thinking like domestically build a platform. He even said that he was talking about a certain portion of the factory is built just to like make the platforms themselves as like a unit, right? And sell them
Right.
wholesale. So he's got a lot of good ideas. He's got a
Well,
lot of good
that's
ideas.
a great one because we've seen a lot of these smaller companies trying to build a vehicle to make it autonomous. Okay.
Mhm.
What if they don't need to build a vehicle? They
That's
buy his
right.
vehicle.
Right. If you're a
And
guy
all
that
of a
just
sudden
can-
we have
yeah.
10,000, 20,000 more sales just because somebody else wants to build that autonomous platform. He's just doing it because he feels he has to, I feel, at this point.
I'm curious as to what if you didn't have a driver, how much cargo could the platform hold without a person on it?
Just off the top of my head, I'd say you could have, upwards of 500 or 600 pounds of cargo on our present platform. And then, could have lots of different storage boxes. You could have, there are a bunch of ways to attack that problem. I think the advantage that the Arcimoto has is that it can, that platform can, go 100 miles of driving and can achieve higher speeds, certainly than like a neighborhood electric vehicle. So we see opportunity there for the, fully non-human opportunities for delivery. Again, all on the same platform. So and one of the things I think that really that we have heard from Faction is just that it was the fact that we had aimed this platform for autonomy really from day one has made it a lot easier for them to do that integration.
Thinking long-term, could Arcimoto explain to us their strategy on how their ride-sharing business will be able to benefit from economies of scale while also capturing significant back-end revenues during the vehicle's life? Where do you see it being in approximately 3 years?
One of the real advantages of the electric vehicle typically is that it's just a longer lasting, requires less maintenance. At the end of the day, we want to build artifacts, things that go for 500,000 or 1 million miles of good use. That is a long-term cost reducer component of the rideshare business model. But the sort of the nearer term would be just reducing the logistics cost of shared vehicle fleets. And what we've seen in the market is that there have been a bunch of different rideshare business models that have been tried. Only a few have actually worked for shared vehicles. The others are just end up being perpetual cash sinks. But one of the real challenges with any shared use fleet is just the logistics of moving vehicles around and getting vehicles to where customers are going to want to ride them. And that's where we see some real low-hanging fruit opportunity in the driverless / autonomous space. And those are the pieces that we're going to be going after first. So in 3 years, we've set at the beginning of this year, we set 2024 as our target for both that kind of fully embodied Arcimoto being on the road, as well as meaningful deployments of driverless robo-valet type fleets. So that's the 3 years out vision, is that 3 years out, our target is that you hit a button on your phone in one of our several, if not many, robo-valet markets, and the Arcimoto you need for your day's trip or your hour's trip shows up in front of you, and you jump in the driver's seat and go.
What do you think of that? 3 years. You think that's going to happen?
No.
That's
You know why? Because
a good answer, because I don't either.
Here's why. I actually think that by then they can just license Tesla's technology.
Well,
Like,
no,
Tesla's
I don't.
gonna make
I
it
don't
open.
think Tesla's going to be licensing anything in 3 years. But do you think that even if they license it, it'll still take time to integrate? So in 3 years, do you see calling a vehicle, any vehicle, forget about Arcimoto, do you see calling any vehicle to your house and it getting to you?
If anyone's going to
3
do it,
years
it's gonna
from
be-
now.
If anyone's going to do it,
Did I do
it's
that
gonna
right?
be
Yeah, I
yeah.
did that.
You're like, in 3,000 years. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Tesla, Uber, Lyft, because they already have that infrastructure. Just, I don't know, just the growing pains involved.
Literally
with setting up that-
2024, you see anybody doing this? I don't think anybody by 2024 is going to
Anybody?
have. No,
I could see that,
Waymo's
man.
already doing this, by the way. Waymo, if you go to a certain area, a small little 16 block radius,
Sandbox,
whatever it is,
yeah.
sandbox, they're doing it. So that's already there. I'm talking about this kind of deployment where you You drop vehicles off in Newark Airport. You drop vehicles off in California somewhere. You drop vehicles off over there, and then these vehicles operate in sort of a semi-autonomous way, like he's discussing.
Yeah.
I think 3 years is really ambitious. Don't get me wrong. I want it to happen once again, but I think that's super ambitious. That I'd rather just have him sell 100,000, 150,000 of these things as opposed to worry about that particular thing of it. But
to me, and tell me if you agree, I think the problem is not so much the technology. I think they could do it. I think it's actually possible in 2 years to have these vehicles go, but it's the charging infrastructure. It's where the vehicle goes.
Well, charging, what about the legal problems you're going to have?
You understand?
Like
okay, so
things.
you drop 50 Arcimotos. If you drop 50 Arcimoto, they have a 100-mile range. See, they have a 100-mile range. So that means that they can only go so far from their base station to give rides because
well,
then they
who's
have
also
to go back
charging
and
it? That means there's a big operation there. Someone probably has to physically plug them in as they come back. If you're trying to like recycle it fast, you want to almost supercharge it. And you don't want to use a regular outlet. You want to, actually plug it into like a level 2 or level 3 charge or whatever. I don't know. I don't think it's going to work the way it's a really hard problem. I'm not saying
it's a really hard problem.
Yeah, I'm not saying Mark can't do it. I'm just saying like it's so hard even Tesla can't do it. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And I think I think there's that component, the technological component, but it's also again charging the vehicles. It requires space, and that the range at that point becomes a problem because if you have a trip to go to Santa Monica, even though you got 100 miles range, the moment you get to 50, 60 miles an hour, the wind resistance seriously cuts that down. So if I took a trip from here to Santa Monica and back, and it needs to charge here, well then it's got to drive back and it's not making any money unless it brings a passenger or unless there's a place to charge where it's at. So everywhere it goes, it needs a charging station within 5 miles.
It has to be close, right? It has to be close to you too, because if you're far away from it, imagine it's driving 20 miles to get to you. So all of a sudden you have 80 miles of range.
And this is actually, you're going to think I'm crazy, but this is actually a perfect candidate for batteries as a service.
You know what? You're right.
I know. Listen, I know. I was like, I know, but I would say
guys,
you get the Arcimotos.
I have Neo stock. Okay, I need to pump that thing.
I think that system can.
This is not financial advice, by the way.
I know, not financial advice. But anyway, it's like we went back and forth on our Neo videos about. I just do not believe in batteries as a service,
and it works here. You're right. A smaller battery.
It's freaking perfect. It's perfect because then you can have one guy who pulls the batteries out and just keeps them charged kind of all day, and then just swap them out.
And then the follow on the same subject, when scaled, how much does Arcimoto believe it would cost on a per mile basis to operate a semi-autonomous or fully autonomous ride-sharing fleet of FUVs?
We've taken some kind of very back of the envelope numbers of this. Jesse, are we thinking? I mean, the sort of the near term would be, $1.25 a mile, something like that. But ultimately we want to reduce the cost of driving even well below that. We want this to be effectively personalized mass transit, something that has not just a real environmental component, but truly an equity component as well.
What do you think of that? $1.25.
Yeah. In fact, it's in line with all the other numbers. The Tesla numbers from Elon Musk himself, I believe, were $1 eventually. So
25 cents.
That was 25 cents for Elon. I think I heard
Elon said that at the point that it gets to 25 cents, it's cheaper to rent vehicles than buy.
Oh well, no, that's you're talking about way into the future. I'm talking about the interim. I believe Warren Rydlick, I think he is calculating $1 a mile as sort of like some interim number. And maybe you're right, that Elon Musk is 25 cents a mile in the future.
He's saying that 25 cents becomes the point when no one's going to buy.
Well, even at $1 a mile. So let's say you want to go anywhere, usually around you, $10, $15 a ride. It's okay. What was your last word about the $1 a mile?
No, what I was saying was, $1 a mile robotaxi. This is. I personally have used Ubers as a delivery service for me. Like when I have hard drives from people that I need to get from across town, they would always say, let me call a messenger, or I'll have one of my guys go. I was like, why don't you just throw it in an Uber, share the trip with me, and I'll go out and get it. And the Ubers, and when I use them to ship drives, the Ubers always show up and I just give them a box and I'm like, I'll see you later. He's like, you're not getting in? I'm like, no, just go to the location and the guy's going to come and get this. And he's like, great. And I actually asked one of the Ubers, I was like, does other people do this? He was like, no. And I was like, How do you feel about that for as a ride? And he goes, it's the best kind of ride because I know my car is not going to get screwed up. Like there's no one in the car. Like if I could pick up a Deliverator, like I'm trying to think like things that there are things that I need to move.
It could be anything, like you said, like it could be a hard drive. The Deliverator doesn't have to carry pizza. That's not the only thing it can do.
Right. But I'm saying as a person, to use that as a service, because let me tell you those, renting a U-Haul sucks, right? And like getting a thing it's the worst
renting
experience.
U-Haul's the worst experience you can have in the world.
And then you have the problem where you have to drive there with another person because you need to drive your vehicle. It just is a nightmare.
Yes.
But this thing was like, it could be really cool.
Right.
Like,
literally, we need a man with a van or a man with an Arcimoto.
and here, I'll say something about, I've been thinking more about your like Deliverator idea because I'm trying to think like maybe this 10th man thing. I'm so convinced it's not going to work that I have to figure out what's the bull case for it. And I think I figured it out where I think I can actually agree with
what's
you.
The bull case?
So like right now, I don't know how it is in, it's probably the same in Jersey. If you go to Target, like I can go on the Target app and order a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And I can go to a designated parking space and they bring the stuff out to me.
Yeah.
Now that's me going to pick up my own stuff. I could see I could see a Deliverator or a vehicle like that basically taking me out of it. So I don't have to go physically pick it up.
Right.
So like I go and I pick up, I could do that at Best Buy. I could do that at Vons. Like I could do that at supermarkets, but then I have to go pick it up. But I could see them
just
filling
putting
that
it
gap.
in there.
Yeah. Like they would just say that this Deliverator
Are you saying an
is going to
autonomous version or is this a person driving it still?
Whether it's a person or an autonomous version, most of the stuff that would fit in my car will fit in a Deliverator.
So, you have a good idea, right? Here I'm thinking like Walmart needs to buy it, but honestly, there could be a whole other network, separate one,
as a service.
Well, like I could be the operator of that network,
right? And you can maybe charge a premium based on the weight, like whatever the weight is, because that's whatever. But that is something that's a pain for me sometimes. Like it's great that Amazon Fresh will bring the stuff to my house, but for that stuff, when I need to run out and like get baby formula or
Oh no! I mean, delivery is the way to go. Yeah, delivery is the way to go.
Let them go get it, but then it's not owned and operated by Target. It's like a guy, or like
it could be a guy, or it could be just a network, like a network operator. He has 1,000 of these things or whatever in the area, and he runs it, or 500, just like a taxi service. I'll give you an example. This does happen already with Apple. So, like when I bought this laptop that I'm using, I didn't want to go pick it up. I was too lazy. So it's
I just spent $3,000. Bring it to my damn house.
Well, I think they charge you like some nominal fee. It's $10-20. I forgot what it was, but instead of me driving to the mall, getting out of my car, going over there, like I already paid $3,000. I'll pay the extra $20 not to deal with waiting in line for your person to come talk to me about my laptop. So they used DoorDash.
Ooh.
They used DoorDash. Apple. I didn't schedule this. They called them up, gave my laptop. The lady comes up with my laptop and has to take a picture that this is happening, that I'm getting it.
Oh, that's so dope.
So this is already going on. And imagine the next level of efficiency where she's not driving. She was driving a regular car, a sedan.
Right.
Imagine that's not happening.
A big 4,000-pound car for a 5-pound laptop.
For a little baggy, right. For a little 2.5-pound laptop,
basically.
Right.
Right.
So the Arcimoto makes total sense for that kind of thing where it's a DoorDash type of a thing and it's not a Walmart type of a thing.
Yeah, it's achieving the result without putting it. That is, I mean, that now we're starting to talk. Man, I wish we could talk to Mark. Mark, if you're listening to this, come back on the show. We have some, well, now you know what the questions are, but we got some questions for you, man.
Yeah. All right. I think that was a long episode. So guys, thanks for joining us. We're going to have more
around.
We're going to have another interview with Lee from LG Investments. And so please check us out, hit like and subscribe. And what do? Hit the bell, right?
And hit that bell. Ding, 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 ding.